I'm very proud to say that at the end of a very stressful and very hectic year with COVID-19, and in the United States specifically, many other challenges that we've faced, not only have we shipped our products, not only have we kept the company and team together and healthy, but we've continued to expand. We've brought in talent from places that were never possible for us before. We've opened up a foreign office in Montreal, and Rainbow is still on a course into the future that we're all very confident and very happy with. And we look forward to using what we've learned in this year for the betterment of the company and our colleagues in the long term. So in late February of 2020, I had a trip to Vienna and to Milan to meet with other developers, to meet with PHP Nordic at their headquarters. And at that moment, COVID went from being something that was very hypothetical, very maybe it's a problem, to something that was tangible, it was immediate, and it was a problem that I had to begin starting to grapple with. And so while I was in Vienna, it became very clear that not only was my trip to Milan to visit our sister studio in Milan Milestone canceled, but also my meetings in Vienna were up in the air. So I got myself home and started to prepare, because even though in the US at the time it looked like maybe it's serious, maybe it's not, we'll see what happens, it's very hard to ignore something when you are confronted with it so immediately, so unexpectedly. And it was really important that as a company we began to prepare so that if we did have to make some big changes in our company to protect our employees and to make sure that we would be safe and we continue our work, that business as usual was about to come to an end, and a lot more quickly than a lot of people wanted to believe. So by the second week of March, we had already started making preparations to move our entire workflow to work from home. And one of the tricky things about going to work from home as a game developer is it's not as simple as take your laptop, put it in the bag, and come home. We have all the studio infrastructure, we have communication and production process infrastructure, and all of these things are heavily invested in and built up in the studio environment. So this was a major challenge. We couldn't just send everybody's workstations home with them. They had to move hundreds of gigabytes, if not terabytes of data around daily. People who live in different places, in different conditions, sometimes they have good internet, sometimes not so much. Sometimes they have a good home office situation, sometimes not so much. So by the second week of March, the US was starting to take the virus a bit more seriously, and we made the decision before it was required with the stay-at-home orders in our state of Arizona to move the entire company to work from home. We had everybody do a survey within the company about their home internet connection, their working setup situation, if they would need additional equipment from the company, and then we sent everyone home on Friday, and on Monday we became a virtual company. We were completely work from home. From that time, we started to make it work. First, it was the basic technological questions. How do you get into your computer? How do you do your job? Again, instead of moving people's computers home, we had them remotely access their workstations in the office. We work with a partner company who provides something like a online style solutions, like for accessing your workstation directly without going to the cloud. This is really critical for us because we need two things in games. We need low latency, and we need the ability to use a controller to do our job effectively. This was the only way at the time that we could quickly, using a kind of consumer end-user video game gameplay technology, be able to get to our workflows in the office from home on hardware that did not have to be the same as our office hardware, and that more importantly, kept the heavy lifting of data transit and the filing and computing on our network in the office. After you get past the technological barriers, now you have the social and operational barriers. What does it mean to have a meeting? What does it mean to keep your colleagues in the loop? What does it mean to get creative feedback when instead of that being, hey, look at my screen, it's, I have to call somebody and disturb their work? Maybe you can't tell if they have headphones on or not, and they're trying to focus. You know, in an office, it's very evident. You learn to get to know your colleagues. You know how to read them and how to approach them. not just with regards to interrupting them, but also with regards to understanding what they're saying and what they mean. We had to relearn all of these things, and we had to establish new norms for this under a fully work from home situation. And we made iterative progress. We started with using things like Slack status updates so that you could have an icon next to your name to show, the equivalent of I have my headphones on, please don't bother me, or I'm here, grab me if you need me. We made changes to how our meetings work so that people would be able to sit in on meetings without having to actively speak and participate, because it's not the same to have 10 people in a room who can have small one-on-one conversations while everybody else talks in the meeting. It's very disruptive, and it's just a video wall with everybody all at once. Over time, things started to re-normalize, and actually, for some people it's quite difficult to be isolated at home, and even for myself, living here alone the last year, it has been quite challenging. But at the same time, we're finding strengths, right? It's easier to get from the couch to creative inspiration when it's in the same space. It's easier to spend more time focused on your work if you're not also in commute. After we got through these kind of short-term technical and operational and social issues, we get to these longer and intermediate-term questions, right? About what does work-life balance mean when work and life happen in the same place? It might be great to play a game on your couch, have a spark of inspiration, and come to your computer and try something. But also, breaking down those barriers between this is work time and this is life is hazardous, right? And it creates the opportunity for burnout, creates the opportunity for misdirected energy or other types of issues that aren't as obvious in a office situation where if you see someone who's been there like at 1 a.m. on a Saturday in the office, then it's like, hey, you don't need to do that. You should go home and get some sleep, right? But if someone is working on a game at 1 a.m. on a Saturday from home, maybe I just see that they're on Slack, right? It's not quite the same as like someone being in the actual office. So we had to start talking to each other and figuring out ways to actually manage this in a long-term sustainable effort. There are longer-term challenges that we had to really start to understand. What does it mean to have employee review as a work-from-home company? What does it mean for people to trust the company, to know them and know their work well enough when they never see them, to give them a fair review, to handle their career in an adequate way? And we've made a lot of changes in the company to do so. And we think that these aren't just band-aids for COVID, these are long-term improvements for the health of our company. And to give some examples on things that really helped in the long term, which was voice is not enough. It's not the company's role to tell everybody that we need a window into their home on a snap basis, right? We respect our colleagues' privacy. We don't want to be any more intrusive than is absolutely required. But it is also important to see your colleagues, for people in the company who are in management, to make themselves visible through their reports to their colleagues so that there is a human behind it. We're not a company of processes or products, we're a company of people that are colleagues who work together. And to keep that human element is central to our ability to do our work well and to have the company be healthy and sustainable and a great place to work. Even though we very much dearly love our office and we want to return to it in the future, we also see the value in having colleagues all over the world. We now have colleagues in London and in Seattle and in California. And now we have, during COVID, opened a second office in Montreal, which is completely virtual. We don't even have a physical office there yet, but we already have 4 colleagues that work in Montreal every day. And these types of things wouldn't be possible without the adaptations the company had to make in response to COVID. As we got through the midterm, I'm speaking somewhere along the lines of September, October. Now we're wrapping up a project. This is the first time we've ever shipped a game as a work-from-home company in Rainbow's 24-year history. what are all the little areas, what are all the little holes in the workflows that we missed in the beginning of the process now are apparent, right? Because we're going through a whole production cycle from beginning to end in a totally different working situation than we've had in the past. And so we continued to adapt. We made the company as a whole come together and understand to identify and solve these problems proactively, right? This could not be a thing that the management would be able to do by edict. We could do by support. We could do by logistics and investment. But the entire company, all of our colleagues together, had to identify places where communication wouldn't work, or a workflow wasn't viable or wasn't efficient enough, and to continue to iterate on these things, and to continue to find ways to make the company sustainable in the long term in this kind of model, and to not pretend like this was a thing that we could throw a Band-Aid on, but it was a thing that we really had to adapt to in order to be able to continue to succeed, continue to function in a healthy way. And so we got a game done. It was much harder than we expected. It was harder than games have been to ship in the past, but we did it, and we're quite proud of the product. And we know now that it's possible. You don't have to be in the office together to ship a game. You can do it as a virtual company. You can build a company that can bring in talent from all over the world across different time zones without being in the same place, without even maybe meeting each other in person, and still come together and collaborate creatively, collaborate technically, and build an amazing game, a game that's fun, a game that still raises the bar of our quality and our expectations for our product.